So right next to Standard Oil number 1 is Rio Grande Caboose number 49, a narrow gauge bobber caboose. This caboose still has the old style link and pin couplers which were used before the knuckle couplers until the 1890s. The caboose was built in 1881 and only has the cupola seats on one side. Number 318 is a C18 class 280, which was built in 1896 as Florence and Cripple Creek number 8. It was acquired by the museum in 1954 and ran for quite a while as the first operating steam engine. GDCX 5400 is a Coors reefer car which was built in 1929. As this sign says, it was leased to the CB&Q, which owned connecting tracks to the Coors Brewery in Golden, Colorado. This is the backside of CB&Q business car number 96, which was originally built in 1886 and it was rebuilt into its current steel side form in 1906. It was actually wood-sided until the 1920s and was donated to the museum in about 1972. It has some pretty nice modern large windows. This car is typically reserved for private parties here at the museum. Coors C988 is an SW900, which was originally built in 1938 for the Rock Island Railroad as an SW1. It shunted reefer cars at the Coors Brewery across the street from the museum until it was moved here in 2004. Coors Brewery has used 10 other diesel switchers like this to shunt cars at the brewery, and some are still in use today. Now here's Mantua and Pikes Peak Cog Railway number 1, an 042 cog locomotive. This 4-cylinder locomotive pushed cars up the Pikes Peak Mountain from 1893 to 1941. Before 1893, this engine had the name John Holbert on its cab. The front coupler on this theme looks weird. I guess there was another bar of the coach that went in behind it. As you can see on the builder's plate, it was the 13,318th locomotive to be built by Baldwin. I think this lever next to the bunker was a handbrake, but I think I'm wrong. The cabs on the Pikes Peak engines straddle the firebox, leaving the crew inside and the firebox door on the outside. But this firebox door didn't have a foot pedal, you had to open it manually. The rods on this engine are also a little odd because the rod from the cylinder doesn't connect to the second wheel but goes behind it and then connects. This is Colorado and Southern Mail Car number 254, which was built in 1928 by American Car Foundry. This little information board was on the side of the car, which says the last RPO in Colorado was in 1967. They did a nice job recreating the interior with some mannequins at work. This little area was for carrying large and bulky items that wouldn't fit in the mail bags. This is a monument for the dome car which used to sit in Glenwood Canyon and has a 5-foot model of a dome car on top of it. This monument was dedicated September 14th, 1950 and was moved to the museum in 1985 to make room for a highway in the canyon. And for a little while, the dome car model was removed from the monument and was placed inside the museum building. Now the model railroad here has no trains running on it. Its layout was owned by the Denver Garden Railroad Society and has been here since 1994 and has grown since. And here's Goose number 7 passing by. I didn't get any video, but I'll write it later in the video. Next to the depot is this old hand car which has a different style of lever on it than what we're used to. Now we ride Galloping Goose number 7, a 1936 Pierce Arrow rail car. The boxcar was converted to hauling tourists in about 1950 and was used on the Rio Grande Southern until it was torn up in 1953. Although some people were allowed to ride up in the front, I chose to sit in the back with some nice seats. At the front of the car was some merchandise specifically for the Galloping Goose.
1950s, got an Alamosa. They moved up here with 30 pieces of equipment in 1959, and as you can see, it's grown quite a bit since then. Continuing with coffee, there we go. There we go. So, okay. As I said, we moved out here in 1959. We now have the largest collection of steam engines in the state of Colorado. That way I can see everybody that way. Yes. Okay. As we come around the corner here, you'll see our turntable, 116 years old, Armstrong turntable, manually operated, no motors. We're in the process right now working on 346, it's over on the ready line. 491 is in bay 1. Both of those are working steamers, and we get on here to come steamer today. 26. If you look in the back door of the roundhouse here, you'll see a wide model steamer, about 12 inches tall. We come around over on the Guard Railroad, I'll point out some more over here. A lot of this stuff that comes off the railroad affecting autos, so that the boxcar and stuff that's around, that's one, the boxcar. If you get past the boxcar and the lower there, you'll see 2 inches, 12 and 14. They're special. They have a shade engine, they're all-wheel drive. They have a drive shaft on the other side, but this one's vertical instead of horizontal. 318 is the next engine. That was our first working steam engine. Engineer's name over there is Cornelius Monk. He was a co-founder of the We come on around, then comes the Garden Railroad. The lower tracks are all electrified. The upper track, that table up there, those are actually live steamers. A little model there of 191. We'll see the real 191 here in a moment. 4801 is a dining car, along with the passenger cars. Those ran right up into the 1960s. That was the last gap of the railroad when we got into competition with the airlines. As we come on up over on the other side out here, we're going to have some box cars. And on the other side of these box cars and gondolas is engine 191. It's the oldest steam engine in Colorado. The 191 was 1880. And next to it over here is 5629. 5629 ran for the Burlington Northern, correction, for the Chicago, Burlington, and Quincy. It could pull a freight train at 100 miles an hour. That's what made the modern grocery store possible. You could take the fruit on Tuesday in California and have it in Denver on Wednesday. So that particular engine made the Denver to Chicago run. So fast freight, the rural passenger car, that's what that engine could do. Right up until the
Now we go inside the main station building to see some other exhibits, including some signs from the old days of Colorado railroading. Here were 2 posters of some of the upcoming train rides around that time, including Dale with Thomas. Also in the museum was a temporary exhibit about the dining car. We were greeted by this G-scale model of a California Zephyr diner. Before the dining car's introduction in the 1880s, many trains stopped at eating houses which were in stations for about 30 minutes. This here was a chime used inside the dining car to notify passengers when it was opened. This particular chime could play a recognizable theme.
Hey, that was pretty good.
Now here's a little bit of the information used on the struggle buggies. There are also some Lego builds of the trains around the Colorado Railroad Museum, including this one of a diner car that isn't at the museum. Sorry if most of these pictures of the Lego builds were a little blurry. There are a lot of people around me and the glass wasn't that good. detailed Thomas & Friends wooden railway train table with learning curve duck and caboose. Another interesting thing here was the old railway padlocks and keys. Also downstairs was this massive HO scale model railroad, which was very well detailed. But the only bad thing was that each section had to be ran by a quarter. Each quarter gave you about 45 seconds to 1 minute of action. But still, there were a lot of different areas. There's even a model of the DeWitt Clinton set up on display. There was also a pretty big yard back there, which was pretty far from the windows.
There he goes!
Hey, there's a parachuter.
In another room of the museum building, they had some large-scale model trains sitting on display. And even an old switchboard that used to sit up in the signal tower. Now here's a massive model of a massive engine, the Rio Grande 4664 Challenger number 3712. This is a model of a 1942 built Baldwin Challenger. The model even had a matching black Rio Grande caboose. And here's a model of Union Pacific 844, which returned to steam about the same time of my visit to this museum. I've seen the real Union Pacific 844 7 different times in person, and here's a clip of one of them. Here's a model of the Union Pacific Big Boy number 4019. Although this exact Big Boy doesn't survive, 7 different others do survive, including 4005 in Denver. And yes, it has a very nice model of a very nice caboose, Union Pacific 25069. On the wall are the headlight, number board, marker light, and builder's plates of Rio Grande 1163. 1163 was a standard gauge 280 of the C-48 class. Next to 1163's parts were Denver, South Park, and Pacific switch stand. There was also a display case of some Pullman artifacts. Pullman even had some special coat hangers. Also under some flaps were some famous people who worked as Pullman porters. There was also this big map of many principal railroad lines in Colorado. I'll just leave it on screen for a few more seconds. And that pretty much sums up my visit to the Colorado Railroad Museum on July 10th, 2016. Thank you for watching, and make sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed this video.